Hello, everyone. Happy New Year from the Nollywood Film Club guys at the time because this was the first space of the year. Um, it you probably just probably just listening to this in the middle of the year now by this time, and you're like, "What do you mean? Happy New Year! Any year I see you, any new year I hear you. Happy New Year." Um, this was the first space of the year. It was good to be back. I am so excited about being back. I really forget to introduce Nollywood Film Club like I usually do. So just in case this might be a first time for you, I'm sorry for all that rambling. It is kind of what I do at this point. Um, but essentially, what we do at Nollywood Film Club is we discuss movies every Sunday. We speak about the good, we'll speak about the bad, and then we'll do a summary. Uh, the description will be below in the comments as always. If you want to skip towards either good or bad or a summary, each section is available down there. I have had to tinkle with this space a little more than most because some of the volumes of some of our speakers were really low. So apologies for any scoring noisy here. Hopefully it's not too bad. But having said all of that, I'm sure you're eager to listen to the conversation. So please do enjoy Nollywood Film Club discussing The Wait. Do you guys want to start with Itia? Do you want to start with what you liked about The Wait?
I don't really have a lot to say, but I really enjoyed it and it was inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask in what way did you feel inspired? Was it like in your fate, or is it like something about the message that clicked with you?
Yeah, just the fact that we have to wait for a lot of things in life and things don't really happen at the time that you want it to. So it's just a reminder to just wait on God, on life, on whatever it is, really.
Okay.
Yeah, and I liked
Yeah. That.
the use of transitions. It was really good. They tried.
Okay.
Generally, I love the film, really. It was good.
All right. Cool. Thank you, Itia. Inka, tell us the what did you like about The Wait?
I First of all, I'm very grateful that this was the one that was chosen.
That's supposed
And
to 444. 4444.
I saw you tweet about it, and I went to go check it out, and it was let me not spoil it for people. I also
I've
didn't
seen
know that movie, but
444.
yeah,
Yeah.
I,
mean,
I will say I will say it's because I see what the vision was.
oh
I
god.
don't think they had the materials to put that vision to be able to execute it.
Have you
So
started
I
2023 with I see the intention?
but yeah, but this movie, I felt like this movie was actually the movie I should have watched for this because I am in a position in my life where I'm like, I'm waiting for everybody is. We're waiting for things. And I feel like this, I really got something from it. I actually
Mm.
enjoyed the movie and I got something from it. Doesn't mean it was a perfect movie. It wasn't. I could do all those technical criticals, whatever, and also even theological. But I think as a Christian movie, right? I
Mm-hmm.
really, really like this movie because I don't know if you've know, maybe because I'm watching because I watch some American Christian movies. It's very Le- Left Behind is a good example of it, right? It's
I haven't
very
been behind in a bit.
Left Behind. It's a Christian American movie, and I know most people don't know that it is. It's based on a Christian book series, and it can almost be considered a Christian nationalist movie. And this movie just talks about fate, and it is about waiting, and it also talks about something very important, especially within the Nigerian context, to understand about fertilities and all that stuff. And they're actual human beings in this movie. and they're dealing with actual real things that actually happen to people, and people will connect with it, even though if you're not even in a place of looking for fertility or anything. People can connect to that idea of waiting and questioning what is the reason for it, and it actually deals with I feel like this is more of a Christian movie because it actually deals with like fate. And it's not insulting people. It's not saying because you're Muslim you're going to hell. It's not doing all those things. It's actually talking about fate. Even when people even, because also in Christian movies, especially in modern Christianity, there's this idea, well, no more, I should be more specific. Pentecostal, modern prosperity Christianity, there's this idea that there is no questioning of faith, that people never question faith. And when even in the Bible itself, like Ecclesiastes in the Old Testament, it's questioning faith. It questions all this weight in the meaning, is life meaningless. It's in the
Have we lost Anika? That's just. Hello?
is a it's a wonderful Christian movie. I love it. This is the type of Christian movies that we should be doing, not ones that attack people and do just on crazy things and say don't question nothing. The Bible never said that. So
Okay.
yeah,
No,
I really liked it.
no, I get you. I feel it. I actually it's one of the things. I was trying to explain this to somebody. I was, one of people around me was like, "Hey, we're doing." They asked what we're doing for Nollywood Film Club this week, and I was like, it's called The Wait." I was like, "It's a Christian film," and I was like, "It's not really like some type of Christian films like that. Like, I guess there is something a little different about it, and maybe I understand how some people see it as refreshing." Okay, all right, Vanessa, tell me the things you liked about The
I
Wait.
just want to say, everybody, did you notice that Mr. C did not say time limit? Because he knows nobody's going to say anything time consuming. But Kosiwala, um, like pretty much everybody who spoke, yeah, actually, no, let me not say that because I don't feel that strongly about this. I genuinely, yeah, my emotions aren't as intense with the way. What am I good? Because I feel like everybody's just been like, oh, I love this film. I think I only have one good. And it's, I think I sort of kind of like I like the depiction of friendship in this. Dr. Nara had two friendships that were like portrayed very strongly apparently in the film. The one with Kate Hensshaw's character, I liked that depiction of friendship. I also liked her friendship with what's his face? Dr. Bayo. um Nollywood doesn't seem to do male and female friendships very well. And I kind of liked this one. They were just constantly there for each other, and I think I liked the portrayal of a male and female friendship. Just friendships in general. I think Nollywood seems to discount friendships as a worthy relationship. Um and they are the most important relationships that we have in our lives, save for the ones with our family members. Our friends are more important, in my opinion, than our romantic relationships. And I think Nollywood seems to discount friendships in films, and I appreciate the fact that this one didn't. Nara had good friendships, and I think she was a good friend as well. So I guess that's what I like about The Waits. And I guess I know I said I wasn't going to do it this year, and it's not really, I understand the intention because that's not what this is. I guess I appreciate the concept of a wait because I'm not doing, I see the intention this year. I refuse to do it this year. But I appreciate the concept of a wait because we all go through a waiting period in our lives, if not multiple waiting periods, depending on whatever our desires are. Could it have been explored more um in depth, yes. Past the premise of women waiting for a child, yes. But I appreciate the premise of a wait and how, as people, we go through a waiting period, if not multiple, in our lives. So I guess those are my goods.
All right, thanks. Vanessa likes the message. I
I
think
did not
so.
say I
Not
like the
not
message.
not
Don't put
necessarily
words
the
inside
intention.
my mouth.
It's the
It's not the message. I feel like the message.
It's not the message.
the message is about the weight
It's not
now.
just
That's not
that.
the whole message. It's part of it. There's a
It's a
part
part
of the
of
Okay.
it. It's
concept.
not
It's
the
like the
entire
idea of
message.
making something
Uh-uh.
about a wait, right? Because we're always waiting.
I know, but I thought that was the main
That's not
message
the
of the
whole
See, I
film.
can like
message.
somebody making something about romance, but I don't like the way they did the romance in the film now. But it was nice to see romance.
Okay,
Okay,
all
maybe
right.
selling in the year.
Jay, thank
Oh
you.
wow, Mr. C agenda continues. It's okay. All right, Fido, please, if you can tell us the things you enjoyed about the wait.
Yes, it seems as if I'm the only one that wrote a list of the things that she likes about the weight. So I'm going to.
Bless you. Bless you. Go
I wrote
on.
a
Show
list, a
them.
long list. So I'm even embarrassed. Not embarrassed, but like here we go again with me having short dislikes as well. I'm looking forward to hearing what people didn't like about it. So let me start, okay? So I felt like the transition scenes were really good. Like I loved the shot with the vase and the transition when she entered the house and it revealed the birthday party that she had a couple of years ago. I love some of the quotes that they said in the film. Like, for example, when Nkechi, I think, was like, the word home trumps the word house. It's simple, but it really does pack a lot of punch in that. I love the camera movement to show us the Ankara wrap chair in the waiting room. When they first referred to it, Ini's eyes darted to the left to trick us into thinking that's where it was, the chair that they were referring to. But like, the camera moves in a certain way to show us what chair they're referring to and how it's wrapped and what it means, and I liked that. Jimmy Odukoya, gorgeous guy. I liked the blood scene. After Ini's character Nkechi had the nightmare, I liked the way he was, you know, sensitive. I feel Jimmy brings the sensitivity to his characters. It's in his eyes, how downturned his lips are, even the way he held his wife, and I felt like him and Nkechi had good chemistry. I love the transition scene with the clock when they had the next flashback scene. That was really good. I love the women's group, the name, and the introduction of Bio's character into the space. I loved how the safety of the space was portrayed, the rules were stated, the sensitivity towards the women's personalities and stories. It was beautifully captured, and I felt like this where Bio ordered them pizza was so heartwarming. I felt Aisha was such a funny character, and the fact that she was like she prefers Amala. I was like, Aisha, please. Then I love the concept of the Ankara raptures again. I loved the vulnerable scene where Soher shared and Bayo came to hold her hand and was like, it's all right, with the tears streaming down his face. And the scene ended with them holding hands and taking deep breaths. I was like, oh, this is so my vibe. As I literally had spent a session doing that earlier in the day. I loved it. In the waiting room itself, it was beautiful hearing the different stories of the women, all heartfelt and emotional. It was educational as well, as these are real struggles women go through, and having these characters tell their own stories each time was deeply moving for me. I was triggered by Joke Silva's scene, how one could maintain respect in that scene. I wanted to feel ashamed at the action that I felt I would take, but I didn't, so I liked that. I really liked how the scenes ended at the right time. They didn't dwell on them too long. I love the acting all the women gave. I felt like they were really good. The emotional scenes where they packed a punch. They captured the pain they were feeling. I enjoyed their conversations with God and the way they portrayed how burdened they were. I felt like the scenes were beautiful. And the lady that was in that film for Maria, that scene where she was crying as Bayo listened outside the door, I felt like the film really captured the struggle of the couples in these and their storylines, the husbands and how they're tending to their women's pain, how they're being there and doing what they need to, what they can do within their power to just provide comfort and support. I also really liked how each individual storyline had its own recurring theme, i.e., Ini's dream and the pregnant woman she kept seeing, and Bayo's wife's lack of faith. All the stories played well together for me. It didn't seem confusing. I thoroughly enjoyed experiencing them back to back. I love the theme of sisterhood, waiting, sharing your story, have community, and a loving, supportive husband that goes the distance with you. Like I said, I liked some of the quotes I heard, especially the one where they said it's a privilege to wait on God. I have to give it to the male characters. I loved seeing these characters on screen. Bayo being the doting husband in the waiting room and Jimmy defending his wife from his mother. I enjoyed seeing him console her and take her away. I was like, yes. Another reference point to Bayo's character was being absolutely sensitive to the women in the waiting room. I liked that scene where Arinze tells Nara that he respects her decision and will wait. I felt like that was sexy because good things come to those who wait. And I love the relationship between Chimezi and Ishaya's character. I really love the good relationships and the healthy communication between these friendships and these relationships that were portrayed in the film. I liked how this was faith focused. It'd been a while since I've watched one, and this was the right time to watch it as I'm getting closer to God. So it was everything for me. I like the words written on the walls and the posters. It's like their messages were needed at the right time, like the "So help me God" on the wall just before the chase scene, or the "Through the Good and Bad" poster in the background as the waiting room held hands in the scene that was emotional and they were taking deep breaths. I like the scene where Chimeze's character was saved. I felt like that was lovely. I loved how we found out that Nkechi's company was the same company it applied to earlier, because I was wondering why she said you don't have to cry this time. So I love that. I feel like I wanted to, like, from this film, I feel like, yeah, I want to see like more men like the husbands in this story, because I love the sensitivity and the what's the right word, the devotion. And there's even one part where someone is like, Bayo, not every husband is like you, and I felt like that was something, you know. And at the end, I loved the ending with the husbands in the waiting room and Chimezi's expanded dance studio. So I felt like a beautiful film. And yes, those are my likes. Thank you.
Oof.
Thank you.
Exhaustive list. We love it. Thanks, Fari. Who did we have next? I think it is Mr. T, then Ata, and then Cynthia. All right, Mr. T, tell us some of the things you liked about The Wait.
All right, hi guys. Happy New Year to the gang.
Happy New
Year. I was very skeptical actually watching at the beginning of this movie, because whenever I see a movie being pushed a lot on the TL, it starts to have come out for me, to be honest. But it felt like a Tyler Perry movie. Sorry to say, I felt like Acrimony or whatever that movie is called. At the beginning, which made me kind of laugh. But I liked, as the movie went further, I liked it. I was a bit suspicious about the friendship between the doctor and the male, between the friendship between the male and the female character. Thinking maybe how they were going to play down the line, it was that they were going to end up sleeping together at some point, but that didn't happen, and I was very, very happy at the end that that didn't happen. And really, really enjoyed the kind of friendship they have, and I stay even thinking about it in real life, that how many of us have friendships that have survived our marriages or our relationships. Um, I liked the fact that they let a man into their space. I'm talking about the meeting, and they were able to basically bond together. And it was just a very, very good movie that rounded up well. Nothing felt rushed. It was almost as if friendship was more important than family in some aspects. I don't know how I can explain that, but that's what kind of vibe I got. I really, really liked it. It was a strong B for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. T. Adab, please tell us some of the things you liked about The Wait.
Is that me?
Yes. Sorry, I'm just going by the names on here. What
That's
name
fine.
would you
No,
like
that's
to
fine.
be?
That's fine. Yeah, I liked the movie that it broached a good and sensitive topic that's quite, I guess, not always explored. So I like that. I like that Kate Henshaw was there because I just like her as an actress. So I like seeing her on screen. And I like some of the transitions, like when they were going from like the birthday party 3 years ago to the present, and they focused on the vase, and then they zoomed out and from the vase, and it was like the present day. I thought that was like quite a cool shot. And then there were like quite funny moments here and there, which I'm not sure if they were scripted or they were just on the spur ad libs. For example, when I forgot his name, I think Arinze was asking her out, and she kept talking about the flies, and I was like, focus, woman. But I found that quite funny. Also, when the Igbo guy was kind of telling her, I want a son, can I speak to a senior consultant? And she just literally pointed to a badge, and he went quiet. It was it's quite funny. I liked the performance from that woman in the waiting room when she was saying that she had PCOS. And I think she made me feel the most out of everyone. Like, she wasn't a lead character or anything, but she gave me the feels more than anyone else that was the lead character. And I thought her performance was quite brilliant. I think that's it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And we have Cynthia. Cynthia,
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I'm here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay, yes. I really don't understand this movie, but well, let me say my like. I like Tosan's natural hair for some reasons. I don't know. I just like when I saw her on the screen and she has that hair packed up. The only person I like in this movie was Aisha, and I don't even know if her character was written or she was just less busy and decided to come into this movie. But when everything was going on and I was not understanding where they were going, Aisha's character was the only person that made me laugh and just like made me go through the movie that I'm still watching. Yeah, so I think that's what I have. That's what I have. Aisha's character. She was like the person for me in this movie.
Okay. No problem. Thank you. So I think the girls is next. The girls, if you'd like to tell us some of the things you liked about the wait.
Okay. So first of all, as someone who is not very religious, it wasn't exactly a struggle watch, but it was I don't know, my brain found it difficult to connect with some aspects of it, but I actually respect the movie a lot in the sense that somehow they were able to show like how these people took comfort in their faith. So the movie portrayed Christianity not, I think someone mentioned Left Behind, which I watched pretty recently again, and like you can really just see how this movie was not about bashing people over the head with like faith. It was more like showing how people take comfort in their faith, how they have personal relationships with their God, how they struggle with it, right? How they get disconnected from it, and it just showed it in a very realistic way that anybody who has ever been in that kind of space can relate with, right? So that's one of my likes. I really liked the sisterhood. So when I saw at the beginning of the movie when they were gathered in that hospital waiting room during the first childbirth, I saw a few notable faces. I was like, okay, how are we going to see these people again? They look like relations, but seeing them come together as a group later on, I liked that. I liked the fact that they were able to find fellowship with each other, even outside of like their faith. It was just they were just a group of people supporting each other, and that came through. Like the movie actually communicated that. Again, the transitions, those were good. They were not like wow. There was no wow effect. The movie wasn't some big budget blockbuster, but it did little things that just showed that okay, this is somebody who paid attention to details. This is somebody who actually cared to make sure that this would be a good movie. I also like that with the bias thing, even after he came, he went through his own arc. At the end of the movie, we could see the effect of that on the group. At the end of the movie, we could see that other men, other husbands, like, joined the group. So it wasn't like, oh, Bayo just came and he ended his arc and that was that. Other women encouraged their husbands to come, or maybe because they saw like Bayo's testimony and all of that, they were able to come. And I just like that they showed that, they took care to show that at the end. And Annie Icha, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name properly, but I love seeing this lady in any movie. She's the person who had PCOS, and she didn't get a lot of speaking opportunities in this movie. But the times that she did, she really shone. Like when she was telling her story, I felt like it's here because it was just so real, and it's something that a lot of people go through every day. And I'm glad that this movie took its time to like represent, like just show some representation of it. So yeah, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. Those are my likes.
All right. Thank you. Some comprehensive description of things that you liked. Thank you. Torera, I think, is our last person before we hear from Mrs. C.
Hi, good
Torera,
evening.
good evening, Torera. What did you like about the way? I don't know if you've been at film club before, but yes, we're doing the likes. We'll do the dislikes after this.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Um, the movie, from what I read, it's like a true life story of the producer, something that she went through and all that. And I think that informed the perspective of the movie. First of all, I maybe because I am a Christian, I read the movie a lot, particularly Jimmy Odukoya and Inidima's story. How many Christians often close their eyes to adoption and see it as something that is not supposed to be. I really particularly liked that arc of the story to make us see that adoption is not a bad thing. And even Jesus adopted us and all, God adopted and all those parts of the story. I really liked that part. I liked the part where Arinze and Dr. Nara were taking it slowly. I like that we didn't see her just get married. So this is the guy that has surely come, because sometimes your own weight is not every other person's weight, really. She was, till the end of the movie, she was still waiting for a man, and we didn't see it pan out. So it showed that even in real life, sometimes you don't always exactly get what you want when everybody's getting their own answers. I liked I liked the fact that they showed the men's perspective. I think that was my favorite thing about the movie, the men's perspective. How Bayo was able to carry it on, talk to his wife. The one man looking through adoption, how he was able to listen to his wife, despite the fact that he wanted adoption more. He had gotten the vision earlier of adoption, but he waited till she was comfortable enough to actually come into that vision with him. And how he stood up to his mom, that mom, I love you, but you cannot come to my home and make my wife uncomfortable. And another thing I like, and somebody mentioned about friendship and family. I think the purpose of that was show that even sometimes family front, there are challenges at the family front. Look at Demi could not communicate with his wife properly because she was on up, she was strong, she wasn't she wasn't open anymore. She had given up faith. She just went on her own closed up self. But he had friendships he could rely on. And I think the purpose is that friendships are there like anchors. They can help you navigate a very bad time in your life. And I appreciate the male female friendships a lot, maybe because I have quite a number of male friends, and I really appreciate when you see genuine opposite sex friendships. So it really, really touched me and was portrayed nicely in that movie. And I want to beg Nollywood producers, if they are here, the lady that played Aisha, please give her a major role next time. I need to see her I've seen her play supporting roles in several movies, and she carries the emotions so well. From Castle and Castle as a receptionist to Namaste Wahala, we need to see her in this book adaptation, Smart Money Women. We need to see her in a major role. She's a very good actress. We need to see her more often. So in all, I really like the movie. I like how it was portrayed. I like the story. I resonate a lot with the story as a person. But I'm not waiting for children or anything. Well, in other places, you waited for certain things and they've come around even later than when you expected them. But but they've come in a very beautiful fashion. And I believe that those that are not even religious in quotes can relate to the movie one way or another. So it was so spiritual that those that are not Christians cannot relate with it. But every other person can relate with it and pick one thing or the other from it. The friendships, the faith, the togetherness, and how people can overcome their own struggles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tarara. I think that's something I agree with, and it was one of my uh, um, one of my issues with when I told somebody it was a Christian film. I was like, oh, that might give them a different impression of what the film's actually like, because I do think it's not something something that if you like it or don't like it, I don't think it was because it was too Christian anyway. But thank you for sharing. Elizabeth, please tell us some of the things you liked about The Wait.
Hi, happy new year, guys. Okay, so what I like the most, I think what I like the most is the central theme here of the plot, which is the wait. And here it's just not talking about waiting for children. I like that Dr. Nara's own wait is waiting for a husband, and Somto's own wait is waiting for a job. And I think for me, in everything, it's Somto's story that I liked the most. Let me put it that way. As much as I do understand more, like I don't know if I don't think what I would use is relate as somebody who waited too, but at the same time, I'm not so sure. But I do like the idea. Then I like the community. I like how community is portrayed here. Community of women or people waiting on God for something. I like that there is this, even if it is not, apart from friendship between Dr. Nara and Bayo, the community amongst those women, right? I like that community was portrayed, and they do some activities together, and they will see that they are very. My daughter said I should shush. I can see that they are very. Now I've lost my train of thought. Anyways, what else did I like? I like the editing. I like the locations. I think it's a really aesthetically beautiful film to watch. For some reason, I really just like everything, everywhere this movie was shot. The fancy houses, the ghetto, whatever it is that was being portrayed. I really liked it. What else did I like in this? Yes, everybody has talked about Aisha, so I feel obligated to talk about Aisha. I really liked her because I was like, oh, this is like the only person that knows the reason why she's in this community. Like, she's very laser focused about why she's there, and she's funny, and she makes everything nice. Anyways, every time I see her on my screen, I'm expecting to be wowed again because anyways, okay, so I think that's that about all the things that I like about this movie. Merci.
All right. Thank you. Miss C, I think it's you because we've lost Mel.
Okay. I don't feel strongly about this film one way or another.
Who asked you? Ask you what you like.
I'm saying, oh, to my life.
Oh, you don't like Agenda? Okay.
Wow. Anyway, as everybody has said, Aisha, I like Aisha. Aisha seemed very badly behaved, and I like badly behaved women, but in a good way, So Aisha was fun. Again, I like the idea of, of the wait, because yes, it is everyone waits, right? So I like the idea of a film about a waiting period, and I like that it wasn't just one thing that they were waiting for. Although, like 80% of the focus was on the birth thing. It was nice to have someone waiting for something else, like the job. I didn't particularly care much about the waiting for the husband one. I think that's been flogged a bit. But it also seemed it works Nigeria wise, because we talk about wanting Nigerian stories and things that are relevant to
Nigerian society and a Nigerian audience, and waiting for a job is very much relevant to a Nigerian audience. Waiting for a child and the drama that comes along with it is very relevant. Being unmarried in your 40s, oh my God, if Nigerians haven't chased you with a pitchfork, you should be grateful. So I think it is quite relevant to a Nigerian audience. So I give it props for that as well. My other comes with a bit of a caveat. I did like that someone went with an adoption. There was at least one person that adopted a child. I like that. But I do have drawbacks on how that whole adoption situation kind of came about or was handled. But that's for a different side to it. But another thing I like about it is something that we've all kind of witnessed on this space, like the people that really relate to it, and it seemed to have struck a chord quite with its target audience, which is great. I'm not the target of the film, but because obviously I have like 12 children, but the people who relate to it really relate to it, and that is quite a plus for me. So I can hand over to you.
Oh, Mel is back. All right. Before I say my part, Mel, do you want to say the things you liked if you're on here and you can speak?
Mel is a listener.
Mel?
Hi, can
Mel
you
is
hear
happening.
me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Hello. I didn't have a lot of likes. I'm not target audience, as Mrs. C said. But I guess one of my likes, also as Mrs. C said, is that the people who were the target audience for this film, I guess enjoyed it or related to it. But I didn't. I think another like I have is, do not crucify me for this, but I thought some drone shots looked really good. What am I thinking of? I don't know. I just really enjoyed them. And I'm not trying to be shady. I just, some drone shots, I was like, oh, that's pretty. I think the one of Makuku. There's another one of like a cityscape that I thought was just refreshing to see. So I didn't mind them at all. What else did I like? I think I need to say that I wasn't necessarily watching as much as I was listening, because I was doing other stuff as well. But I think that every time I looked at my screen, set design looked okay. There's nothing that rubbed me off the wrong way. People looked like they belonged wherever they were placed. So I think it looks clean as well. Just on my screen, it looks clean. Those are my likes. I do have a bunch to say about what I disliked about it, bearing in mind that I was not the target audience. So I hope that I can keep those lines clearly drawn. But I have a lot of thoughts about the premise of it by itself, the way that they addressed adoption, just how uncritical it was, I think. But when we get to the bad. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Mel. For me, my likes. So, a couple of people have mentioned some of the characters that were fun, and I agree with a lot of that, if not all. Aisha was obviously funny and fun to she was just entertaining with a lot of her quips. One of my favorite things was it was directed by two directors, but like it didn't feel at least disjointed in that sense. It's not always the case. Like it's good that they had their visions at least somewhat aligned in that case. There's some. I remember watching the sequence where Ini's character nearly hits this pregnant woman, and I really liked the way that was shot. So honestly, I think somebody else said it. It seemed like somebody thought a lot about how they wanted to present a lot of these shots and the scenes and with the blockings and all of that. And it feels like the story on its own could have been what would have felt like a really Room and Palo movie. But like somehow the directing elevated to something of a film. I think there are aspects that makes that part, that makes this my good. This thing I'm saying about how it feels a little more cinematic because of the way they've shot it in comparison to what feels like it's on the page. I think there are. Sorry, I think there are some cons to that, but overall, what a nice thing to be able to. It's a nice thing to be able to elevate sort of what's on screenplay, to be honest. So yeah, I think that's my other good. There's some good performances in here as well, from other people, but no bad performance, I guess, is another thing. That there isn't one that I thought was from any of the leads anyway that stuck out to me. But yeah, all right, that's as far as I can do. All right, so if we want to start with the bad, let's go with.
I have one tiny little good thing to say.
Haven't you already spoken? Are we doing second?
Yeah, but
Okay.
I didn't say much because I didn't want to overtake something. Just one thing. One
Okay.
thing. The casting here seems really, what's it called, intentional, because we know Ini, she came out to tell us the story. So that's like she cannot be possibly have a child. And it was a big thing for her. But she and her family has made a decision that they will just be together by themselves. And I thought that was she was putting them maybe for that intention also. And the same thing with Joke Silva, even though she said all those things as an actress, like she was in this, she was adopted. She came out to tell us the story. I didn't come out to I didn't go looking for their personal life stories. But so I think because of this movie that is about something like this that is very in Nigerian society, and they casted actors and actresses that have come out to tell stories that sort of involved this topic. And I thought that was a good thing in the movie.
Okay. All right. Thanks. All right. Let's move into the things we did not like. Let's start us off. The girls. Do you want to start us off? The girls. Sorry. What do I actually call you?
Okay, so you call me Sonia.
Sonia. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So something I did not like. The major thing I did not like in this movie was this Kunle Remy angle. It felt unfinished, sort of, and not even in in the sense that they did not get married or there was no commitment. It's just that when we first met his character, he had he was signaling fraud, because he was saying the things that her ex had said that had predated his defrauding her, right? That's the catchy guy. And Kunle Remi was saying those things. But somehow that wasn't explored. It was the reason she walked out of that place when she did the first time they met. It was the reason she avoided him. That conversation never came up again, except when he was like, "Oh yeah, you were avoiding me that one time." But then they became friends. Then they were going out. We never found out if he was a fraud. We never found out if he tried to have such a conversation with her. We never found out why he was having that conversation. So it just felt like, I don't know, were they rushing, or they just did not know what to do with that, and they just wanted to be clever with it there. I don't know. So it felt very unfinished. The other thing is that the dancer architect thing with Somto was, it felt a bit awkward for me. So it felt awkward because I didn't really understand it. So you want to be a dancer, like how are you going to make money as a dancer? Because you're doing this thing because you don't have a job, and you want to get a job because you want to make money so you can send back home because you're your first son. But now you're saying, okay, maybe I can dance and dance with the neighborhood kids. Okay, so how exactly is that going to make money for you? Somebody mentioned dancing at Computer Village, but that was like when they were making mockery of the thing, not as a potential revenue option as a dancer. So those two things, they just, I don't know, they just didn't sit right with me. Um, the, I didn't exactly like the hate the movie. I just recognized that I was not its target audience. So a lot of the things that I might not like, I can't say because maybe it's because I was not the target audience. But these are the two things that somehow just did not, they didn't gel. So yeah, that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Sonia.
Vanessa.
Okay, Vanessa.
Thank you, Twinny. I appreciate you for caring about me. Unlike some people. Because
Daniel.
honestly, I don't have quite a lot to say. Like I said at the beginning of this, I don't feel two ways about this. I'm not going to give that I'm not the target audience caveat, even though I wasn't. But my main issue with this is that it was boring as hell. And I'm sorry to everyone who loved this, enjoyed it with every fiber of their being. I just had a completely different experience. I was bored. I was really bored. I kept fast forwarding to make the time pass quicker. And for whatever reason, my fast forwarding wasn't fast forwarding because it kept going on. And it wasn't a long movie. So that's what threw me off. Why I said it really was a bore. I hate to say this, Onyekon and Mr. C and every other person, yeah, the performances weren't great. The acting wasn't great. And even though because I don't want to come off like I'm unsympathetic towards Ince's issues, because it's Ince, not Ini. I think Ini had fibroids removed. That's a completely different thing. Ince's the one who said they've had issues fertility wise and they've chosen to do blah 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 blah. And so maybe this might make her more make it, I don't know, her relate more to the character, the film, whatever. Ince's performance wasn't great either. I have reached a part in my life. I used to be the biggest Ince fan. And it's been heartbreaking over the past couple of years to watch Ince deteriorate as an actor. This was a much better performance than was it Golden Girls? I be Glamour Girls. Glamour Girls, don't we? This was a much better performance than Glamour Girls. But yeah, no, Instead has completely deteriorated as an actor. There were a couple moments in this that I thought, okay, yeah, I can see it. But Instead used to be consistent, and this performance was completely inconsistent. It wasn't like the performances were bad. They were not, oh my God, I hate these performances. The acting was horrible in this. No. But even among the 6 leads, like the main people in this, maybe 5, and say any DME, I don't know who else. But yeah, the acting was not given. It really wasn't. And I guess that was what made it even harder to relate to it, because whether or not you're the target audience for a specific subject matter, if the actors do well enough, they can make you relate to whatever is going on. Because at the end of the day, these are issues that real people face in real life. These are things that people go through. These are things that people have experienced. So whether or not the issue of faith and religion does not relate to you, or you don't relate to that, you should be able to at least relate to the people. and I couldn't. The acting was it really let everything else down. The issue with how adoption was treated in this was incredibly worrying and aggravating for me. The nightmares, the making it seem like it was this big imposition on her. I don't know, it just felt, it was very icky. I think that's the word I should use. It just felt very icky to me. But it was, but I think the main crime that this committed was that it was boring. Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay. Mrs. C, what are you saying about the adoption thing? Because
I mentioned in my good that I liked that someone did adopt, but it comes with a big caveat. And I remember saying while we were watching it that if I was getting adopted, I really wish they would do it with more enthusiasm. Because it really sounded like she was having nightmares of being chased, right? Like the option of an adoption to her was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. And it's not like I don't get it, right? It's not like, people have this thing in where, oh no, it has to be my own child. I need to, but it's just, I really struggled with like someone who, has this, it has to be my own child thing, which implies that an adopted child is not, your child. It didn't settle with me well, that person adopting like 3 days later, because I'm not getting good vibes, right?
Right. I would say though that especially because this is what they wanted to do, that they did want to show somebody who isn't keen on adoption, and it's not whether one likes it or not. That's kind of how a lot of people are. So I think they're showing that part. I guess the issue, I guess the issue around it is that what changes it is just maybe is that it's just that we don't address that particular, her change of mind isn't really to do with, oh no, adopting is a good thing and you should welcome it.
God is making you adopt.
It just was like, yes, I heard it from God.
It sounds like,
so that's why.
It sounds like Abraham go sacrifice your kid, or what was the prophet they asked to marry the harlot. It just sounds like a distasteful thing, but I'm going to do it because, this is what God is asking me to do, which,
okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, those things surrounding the adoption were not addressed. Every time adoption came out, her reaction to it was so visceral. And, even in her prayer, right? She rage quits her prayer with, I don't want to adopt.
Yeah, that was
and
funny.
And like 3 days later, she's like, yeah, cool, let's go adopt. And she's walking into this orphanage with, this sadness on her face. And it's like, obviously no one is pleased if they try to have a baby and they can't, but I know people who've adopted and this is not how they went into the process, right? You're taking on a whole new child. It's just, it didn't sit right with me that going into the adoption still looking oppressed as she's walking in to adopt a whole human. So that was my adoption.
In fairness, that's just in his one face. All right. So who do we Fider, tell us some of the little dislikes you have.
Yes, little dislikes. Okay, so I have a few. The first thing for me was the coloring of the film. I find that I prefer warmer tones for films because they keep me focused. So I found my eyes like darting away, and I was listening more for certain parts than watching, just because of how it was, like the color grading and everything. When it looks like that, it's difficult for me to focus. So that was a bit of a setback. The second one was I noticed a bit of technical difficulty with sound in the first scene. I think Yemi was speaking and he sounded a bit muffled, and I was like, oh, is this how we're starting the film? The third one was Inse. ever since, I don't know who even said it. Someone said something about incest accents a while ago, and since then I've really just been, I'd already noticed it before, but since then it's just been more pronounced in my head. And in this film I was very aware of that, and I felt like I definitely prefer when she's speaking pidgin because it flows better. And she had one scene when she was speaking pidgin to Kitensha, and I was like, look at how the English flows, like it's not heavy, look at how it flows on you. It's not heavy when you're speaking actual English. Because there was a scene where she said something about putting things in the boot. And for me, when she said that, I was like, I hope that as she's saying this scene, she doesn't slip up. Because you know, when you're speaking in a pronounced way that may not be natural, there's a word that is actually going to slip up and show that you're not really being authentic in how you're speaking in terms of like tone and accent. And when she said putting the things in the boot, I was like, oh gosh. The second one, the other one was like, this is not a dislike, but there was a place where Bayo slipped and pronounced pizza a certain way that was funny. And what I didn't like was that I was thinking about like film club and how if anybody noticed it, the way they would talk about it, and I laughed so hard. I was like, oh no, I hope nobody says this. Then the last one was the scene where Nkechi's character was crying, that emotional scene, and she was crying and she said, why are you doing this to me? But the way she said it was like, you know, she was what's the right word? She was saying it in between breaths. And I felt like that was another thing that if someone noticed in film club, like they would really make fun of. And I just and I said, why am I the one writing it down? Am I the one that is going to make fun of it? So clearly I'm the one that is making fun of it. But like in that scene, like even though she was crying and everything, there was still a comedic thing to it that I didn't like. I at a point I couldn't take it seriously anymore. So I felt like that was just it was a half and half for me. Yeah, those are my dislikes. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Bye. Yeah, I do remember the I think he said pizza, which was yeah, interesting. All right, so next let's have Anika, do you want to tell us some of the things you didn't like?
Okay. Yes, so some of the things I didn't like, and I think some people have definitely talked about it. I will still go like as much as I said, like, okay, I kind of like this trend in like Christian movies being more about their faith rather than like being a Christian nationalist movie. Um, there is an issue, yeah, slowly. Like, I'm not going to take a theological issue with some of the something, but like a more social economic issue with this movie. I will say this movie did much better than the last show that we watched about poor characters, right? Characters that are obviously more poorer than other characters in the story. Um, the guy looking for a job. It doesn't have it doesn't have that much screen time, but that's because this movie's focus is not on that at all. But they did add it in, and I'm giving them points for adding it in. But uh all the other characters are obviously look like they are upper middle class at the very least, right? And and they mm, they are sort of issues about like, oh, fertility issues is it's still within the realm of reality and possibility. Like there's some thought that goes into that. You can clearly see that that one they more thought about it. But when it comes to like the issue about looking for a job and the reason why you need the job is because of money and financial reasons, the thought of it is just like it's not well thought out because as somebody has already pointed out, the job thing, like if they do dancing in something, how does that handle money? Also, the dancing gives the kids hope to get out of the poor place, right? What how does that actually change anything, like the social the problems of these people, like the the material issue. You're not dealing with that. I guess it gives them something. I guess it gives a social bond. Those things are still important, but you didn't, and it's not as handled right. Why is the guy being chased down? They don't even give a good reason why the guy is being chased by the other gangsters. There's more stereotype. It's just, oh, they are gangsters. The guy did not steal from them. The guy did not do anything from them that much. They're just getting kids and dancing. And why do you think this should be a big issue in the community, in the poor community? It kind of seems like, oh, poor people don't know anything. Like, it's, again, why is this going to be an issue? They didn't give any true reason. They just let us infer. In all, what we're inferring is like, oh, the gangs are controlling the kids, and like they don't want kids to have a future or something like that, which is a narrative, a stereotype, a trope, a common trope in movies, even in American movies over here too. There's that trope of like, oh, no, that's not the reason. Like, it's kind of very, so it's kind that it is better. I will say that the poor characters in this show than the show that is actually focused on actual poor people was the one that we watched last year, that Netflix TV show.
From home.
Yes, the poor characters are treated in this one. They talk normally. They have normal something. It's not. They talk about, okay, faith. They also do that thing about like waiting. They are supportive. They are grouping. All those things. It's not. It's much better in that way. But like, the issue here is that they didn't really give, there wasn't that much thought and effort put into their stories, even if they're not the main focus of the story, because I'm thinking the book is based on God's waiting room. It's really focusing on women waiting for children or something like that. Just didn't just they didn't put that much thought into it. I felt they didn't put that much thought into it. It's just that's an issue. That's an issue. It's the continued stereotypes of like poverty and things that we continue to see in movies across the something. It's just how that's an issue. Did better than Far From Home in giving these people in giving those characters, like making them, they were not that much different from the rich characters. Like, they talked about their issues, they gave advice, they were supportive. There wasn't like crazy caricature, except for the gangs. The gangs were crazy character. It wasn't that. It wasn't bad, but like motivations that is based on like some similarity of reality. Because I never think movies are ever going to be real. It's a simulation of reality. Motivations that are based on some similarity of reality. They didn't give those characters. They did not. Looking for a job, yes. First of all, why did you kick out the guy without looking at the portfolio because it was crying? Okay. Now you're going, okay. Why would this guy now go back to help the kids? Like, what helping is he helping the kids? We see a lot of kids dance on the internet. What makes you think those kids get money from that? What makes you think those kids get money from that? Even the internet, we know how the internet economic works nowadays. What makes you think that there is even money for the person that is even running the thing? Like, it's better. It's also saying, oh, just do internet and your money, something will disappear. No, no, that's not true. It's a lift yourself by the bootstraps mentality. It's softer in this one than in the other one. The other one was very bad. The other one, lift yourself, Far From Home's one, was very bad. This one is just softer. It's not as implied. But if you take the thought completely to its logical conclusion, it's basically saying kind of the same thing. It's kind of that thing that rich people will probably tell somebody that is not even rich people. People people will tell other people like, oh, don't worry, just do this and the money will come. And they do that thing and the money does not come because in actuality, that's not how people make money, and things are not surfacely, it's and especially it's more important for those characters because those characters are obviously poorer than the other characters. And it's,
All
you
right.
know, I- in regards to the fertility, some of the fertility things that they talk about, I get it.
Sorry, Onika, I didn't put any time limit on this. But I didn't think people were gonna speak. Personally, you're on about 8 minutes.
I'm talking about the bad. I'm just
I know,
pointing
I know,
out
no,
some
no,
of
no,
the
no.
bad. Okay.
It's just it's going on. Just try wrap it up a little bit, right? Yeah, and I didn't remind you guys of 6 minutes, but we do have 6 minutes, kind of.
Okay.
Okay.
That's that's the most important one that I feel like needed to be said. Um, fertility. Okay, I'll just leave my out the fertility sort of advices that they sort of give. I'll leave it out. I would. It's not as connected to reality too. Like that's like there's if you're going to make a movie about, this is why I say it's more faith based than actually reality. There's a lot of there's a lot of things with those, some of those fertility things. Like, let me just keep quiet. I'm done.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Anika. You can have a second round if something comes up. Francis Franca, please tell us. I don't know if you were here for the good, so feel
Yeah.
free to say some of the things you liked and also things you didn't like.
Guys. Nice movie, great movie, but I feel one of the problem they had was casting, because I feel Inse is a great actor. Ini tried, but I feel they just didn't act the role well, and I think the producer wanted to didn't want to make it a church movie, and they didn't want to make it 100% faith, and that is where they lost it. Because if you want to make it faith, you would have just made it faith. Like if we look at the movie Miracles from Heaven, and most of the actors there were not even Christians, like strong Christians. And we have Jennifer Garner as like the main actor, or we could relate. I personally, I couldn't relate to the movie. I couldn't relate to the movie because I didn't feel the emotion. I didn't feel the emotion. I didn't. I couldn't. I recommended the movie to people, and they were like, "Oh, I like it." I cried, but I didn't cry. I didn't feel the emotion. I didn't connect with them because I feel, oh, I'm seeing Inse. I'm seeing Ini. I'm not. Even when she was crying for the child, I didn't. I don't know. And the movie was long. It felt long, 2 hours. Even before they even entered like the main subject, I was like, well, okay, what wants to happen? I just feel maybe the casting was just wrong for some people. But Joker Silva actually acted like a very, like, she's an OG. Like I love how she acted. I love how PJ acted. I love how PJ acted, and they tried, but I just feel casting was one of the problem they had, and they didn't want to make it 100% faith based, and I just feel they just went off basically. Thank you.
All right. No, thank you, Francis Franca. Just going to read some of the messages coming in. You can also send in your messages. We have, I think I said earlier on, again, all the things I liked. Other things I liked, I also liked. Thank you for communicating good parts of the movie very well. So that's, I think I showing Fi some love. Ahmed Tripity Line says, whatever. This I think it's less about the money and more about the kids engaging in activities that aren't harmful or criminal. I think it's funny. Like that didn't seem to be his goal. That seemed to be. It might be me, but that just seemed to be like a bonus to wanting to do dance. It wasn't like he was trying to get kids out of more harmful things. But anyway, that's by the way. But you can send your messages if you don't want to speak. We shall continue with the bad. Cynthia, tell us some of the things you did not enjoy about the weights.
Well, like Vanessa have said, this movie was very boring. Um, I started last night. I slept off 15 minutes into watching this movie. Someone said say something.
What?
Oh, I
Go
thought
on.
someone was going to say something.
No, no,
Oh,
no, no. Go
okay.
on.
Yeah, so I slept off 15 minutes into watching this movie and I continued this morning just because of this film club and I just finished it. And honestly, I cannot remember a lot of things about this movie. So it was not only boring, it was also very forgettable. I think the problem with this movie for me was I don't know why I want to blame the directors, but I just felt like the focus was more on the camera movement than on what we were watching. Like we saw a lot of beautiful transition, beautiful this and beautiful that, but the story was just missing or disjointed. I agree with Francis. I could not relate with anybody in this movie, and I am sorry. But during a lot of the emotional scenes, I was laughing. I am sorry, God, please forgive me. But I was just laughing because I I don't know. It was like they were acting, and the acting was not acting. I don't know how to explain it from you. I don't know how to explain the situation I faced, but I was just laughing throughout. Like I said in my like, only Aisha's character was rounded for me, and it's not even just because she was funny. It's also because we knew why she was waiting. Okay, we knew a problem. She was not so forced into making a decision. She and her Halaji husband made the decision to go through surrogacy. And yeah, the other characters, I mean, if we're going to start with Ini's character, let me be honest, I've even up to now, I did not know why Ini was waiting. Like I did not know if it was miscarriage she had, if she did abortion, what happened to her? She couldn't give birth. What is her issue? I don't know why she was waiting. I also do not like the whole transition or the whole adopting thing. And I also don't understand why she had to adopt a newborn baby. Anyways, that's that. The Tosan character, even though we knew why she was waiting, when it got to her making the decision, I felt she was being blamed into her decision. And I was like, what's going on? I'm sorry. When the Amy's character was saying, when you were pregnant, I was pregnant with you, I was just rolling my eyes. I was just rolling my eyes. I was just rolling my eyes. Well, guy, what are you saying? What do you mean? We're pregnant for us. I'm pregnant with you. And the next thing, she's now watching Salmon. Her character arc is not changing. She was victim blamed into what she did. I don't understand what was going on. Um, like everyone has said, Dr. Nara, yes, this was better than Glamour Girls, but I also feel bad for Unse because sorry, I'm going to use Omotola as an example. Omotola is my babe. But like Omotola, yes, she has gone bad a bit in acting, but fortunately for her, she during her time she made the name, she made the big things, she got whatever she has gotten. She has gotten to the peak of her career, so it's fine if she's bad now. It's just like she's retiring. Do not stress her. But for someone like Nse, I think she did not reach that point that I think it's okay to be bad now. Okay, so yeah, I don't even know what was going on with her. I hated her relationship with the woman's husband. What I Someone said she he liked the relationship because relationship in marriage. She's a medical doctor. What is she doing with a patient's husband? I hated that relationship. Then I know a lot of people like the flashback transition because of the vase, but if you really ask the question, why was it there? Why was it there? Like, why is this Dr. Nara lonely? Yes, Kashi this, Kashi that. That's no reason why people should be celebrating a birthday for her. So I appreciate their transition with the base, but I don't know why the flashback was there. Like I said, a lot of things about this movie was just focused on the camera, and it was beautiful. But yeah, they forgot the story because it got to a point with Tubonse character. They were trying to tell us that she's so smart that she's publishing in the New England Journal of Medicine. Oh, please shut up. This, this. Why? Why? What is this doing in our story? Who is this person? She's just a doctor. I still don't know why she's doing the therapies. She's a doctor. Yeah, so I really don't know. I don't know. Like, in all, I'm not the target audience. I find it very boring. Um, I feel it was quite forgettable. Apart from Aisha's character, that we knew a problem, she and husband decided to make the decision to go into surrogacy. The other woman, I did not understand their transition. I did not appreciate it. I felt Tosan was blamed. In his choice of adoption, after praying and hearing adoption, I don't know what to make of it. Sumto dance group, I was angry. I was angry with the name because Sumto steppers sound better than Sumto dance group. What are you saying? Is this sustainable development goals we are doing here? But yeah, that's it for me. I'm not your target audience. I do appreciate the camera movement, but yeah, apart from Aisha's character, I don't know what to say about the other ladies.
Ngwane, all these people are not their target audience. Thanks, Cynthia. I think you haven't said.
Yeah.
Yeah, your dislikes. Let's go on.
Let's go. My dislikes are, some of them are petty, some of them are not, but I'm just gonna mix them up here and there. In the beginning, when she comes out and says they're celebrating the baby's here, blah blah blah, then she goes back because there's a problem. She comes back in, she just looks at them and walks away. I thought that was a bit of a weird scene. I think they do that a lot of movies, but it doesn't work. But specifically in this movie, it didn't work, and specifically in a Nigerian setting. You can't come and celebrate and then you just come silent and walk away, and no one's gonna ask you, "Excuse me, ma, what happened? Explain yourself." So that was a bit weird. The sound was muffled a lot of times. I don't know what was up with that. It felt like when you're in church and like someone is really grabbing the mic and they're putting their mouth inside the mic. That's what it felt like sometimes. It's a lot muffled. A lot of times it was quiet. If I didn't have the subtitles on, I wouldn't know what they were saying at times. So yeah, that was a bit weird. I didn't initially get the correlation with the story with Somto. I didn't know what he was doing in the story. I think they waited a bit too long to explore how he was connected to the other people, because I was just like, what's this guy doing here? I don't understand. What's the connection? And they waited a bit too long. And also, I don't really know what his character is doing there, because I think if you put all the scenes together, it probably didn't even make up to 10 minutes or something, or 15 minutes. So I get that they were trying to explore a different side of waiting, but what's the point of just putting a small minor character that the correlation is kind of weak to the other characters anyway? So yeah, I don't know what that was about. Also, the name, not the name actually, the posters. Yeah, he just put like SDG at my yard 2 p.m. What how do people know what that is? Are we doing rituals? Are we smoking? Are we I don't know. It's just SDG 2 p.m. Someto's yard. I mean, I guess there was a picture of people dancing, so maybe that's what they were meant to get from that. I don't know. The characters, the one, was it Ines character? Yeah, I don't think he was well fleshed out, as people said. I didn't really know what her reason was for waiting as much, and I literally didn't even find out her name. Maybe I wasn't paying attention until like 1 hour into the movie. 1 hour, yeah, into the movie. I think they were having a fight. It probably was the scene with the mother-in-law or something, and the husband was like Nkechi. I was like, oh, that's her name, because they literally never said it. I think they might have said Mrs. Williams a few times or something, but they literally never said her name. And I think maybe I didn't pay attention. I think that shows how not much attention was paid to that character. We didn't even know the motivation or why she was waiting or what was happening. they could have made that a bit more clearer. Contrary to popular belief, I did not like Aisha's character, not the whole character, but I feel like they brought her as comic relief at times. Like the scene that, and he was like, "Oh, let's all get pizza," and she was like, "Oh, no, me, I want amala." It's kind of like they just brought her as, let's bring one typical Nigerian one to say like a typical Nigerian line, and let's all laugh, I guess. What else? Yeah, the Somto chasing scene, I don't get it, because I thought initially it was maybe the boss didn't like that he was doing something in his territory. Maybe he was like, he wanted the boys in his own gang or whatever, and that's why they were chasing him. But then the boss is the one who says, "I've told you to leave this guy alone." So these guys are just acting erratically for what reason then? I don't know. Like, they were just randomly chasing him with a machete. There must be like a heavy motivation for you to chase someone with a machete, but there wasn't. I don't know. I don't know what that was. They haven't explored that. Yeah, I feel like his character and Nsez were actually not that important to the story. Again, I see that they wanted to explore different sides of waiting. It's not just fertility issue. Nsez was waiting for marriage. He was waiting for a job. But again, as I said, his combined scenes were maybe like 10 minutes. Nsez's character, I understand, but it didn't tug at my heartstrings. So I feel like the other stories were a bit more compelling, I guess, than hers. And I don't know why she was kind of made like a central character when the other ones had a bit more interesting or compelling storylines. I did not understand why Ines' character decided to adopt that woman's child, only because I don't understand how she knew that the girl wanted to give up for adoption. I think she saw her at an adoption when she went to like a what's it called, orphanage or something. But I mean, that doesn't mean anything. I don't know, why would you randomly assume, I saw this woman at a orphanage or something. I don't know if it was her orphanage. I saw this woman there. She must want to give her child away. Let me just take hers. Unless again I'm missing something. And I think, yeah, the movie just dragged. At a point I just looked up and I was just checking how much was left, and it was like 45 minutes left. And I was like, wrap it up already. And yeah, and I know I'm a witch because it's meant to be like a heartfelt story, but I was just like, yeah, this is not hitting. And again, like I mentioned in my likes, my favorite, I guess, performance was that woman where she was talking about PCOS and her husband wasn't there, very supportive. And then even when the other audience said, "Is it because you're overweight?" she was like still kind of like in character and really, really it was quite emotional. And I think that was like one of the stronger performances compared to the lead roles. And like when the other lead characters were crying, didn't do anything for me at all. When this woman was crying, I didn't cry, but I felt something. So that shouldn't be the case. If those are the lead characters, they should make you feel something, but I didn't really feel much. I think yeah, and I think there was just a few scenes where Insa seems to be like kind of maybe interrupting the characters or trying to say our lines while the others are already still speaking, things like that. But yeah, I think that was it for me.
All right, thank you, Miss C. You want to say something?
There's a lot of things I want to say, but I just want
minor correction.
Oh yeah, minor correction. She didn't go in to adopt that woman's baby in particular. She'd gone in to do her adoption thing, and I think she just didn't know who the mother was because she looked surprised when she came in. Yeah, she looked surprised when it was the person she recognized that came in. But also, I want to tell you, Ada, you are not alone. I also feel like a little bit of a witch.
But in Mrs. C's case, I can actually testify she's what? At least part witch.
But can I say, like, when her husband was like, "Oh, let's adopt," and then she was like, "No, I have an idea." So that's why I thought the idea was, let me adopt this woman's child, but maybe I got it wrong.
All right, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. Mel, do you want to tell us some of the things that rubbed you the wrong way?
Sure, but I'm definitely with you, Ada. Because there's a reason why she said, "Oh, I have an idea." She was cooking up something, so that it just makes sense that she knew exactly who she was going to adopt from. I'm just going to blame the looking surprised on an acting problem, but I'm super convinced that by saying she had a plan, she knew exactly who she wanted to adopt from. Um, anyway, so what are my dislikes? I think my first dislike is it it tried to appeal to a wider audience. But I don't think that this is a movie about waiting in general. I know that came up in the likes a lot. But I don't agree, and I'm not convinced that this is a movie about waiting in general. I think this is a movie about waiting for children. I also have a personal problem with how they address this waiting for children. But I thought that them trying to spread out a little bit and not committing to this expansion just made it feel inauthentic. So I can see that from the outside, but I guess if I was the target audience, then a lot of the things that were said in a code that can trigger some emotional reaction from me, can trigger just me feeling that like I connect with the story, but just in general, it just is something that falls apart when I think about authenticity and when I think about what showed up on my screen. Um, I don't know. I had a personal problem with Instead of being a therapist, yes, but my bigger personal problem is there's parts of the film that feel like it's given medical advice. Okay, and this is also where like it becomes clear that they try to appeal to like a non-religious audience, try to masquerade as non-religious. I think that's what I want to say. That the parts of it that feels like it's trying to masquerade as non-religious, just trying to be like, oh, and that's why Aisha is there, right? Um, but in trying to distance from religion, um, I found myself going like, I don't know if you get to say that, or I don't know if you get just that to women who are waiting or women in need. I don't know if you have any business doing that. I guess we could argue that like, oh, it was presenting women with more options. I don't know if you're presenting options, then you're presenting options and not presenting them as a solution. And there's parts of this film that presented a bunch of things as a solution. Surrogacy is a solution, not an option. Adoption is a solution. What else did we have? Like, so there's parts of it that feels like it's masquerading and trying to masquerade as non-religious. It pushes itself more to the more medical, and it just starts to suggest things that I don't think it has any business suggesting. I have a question for this film. Are children a gift from God, or are they a reward for being good? For people being good, because it never deals with that. It never and I think that's what my next point is going to be. Everything just gets wrapped up in a cute little bow. Everybody gets everything they wanted, and the people who don't get what they wanted are very content. Look at Inse and the big speech she gives about waiting. Very content with waiting, which is not quite true, is it? Even when you're willing to wait, sometimes you are impatient. There's parts, there's times in the waiting that you get impatient, and none of that gets captured in the film itself. It's just, oh, once you figure out that you're waiting, everything just sort of fits into place, and that's not true. So it doesn't feel realistic to me. But I think my bigger problem with it's just wrapping up in the cute little bow is that there's no space for intricacies or complexities or just anything being multi-layered. It's why adoption is treated in the way that it is, even when in real life adoption isn't such a straightforward journey. It's very complicated. It can be very confusing, both for the people adopting and the kids being adopted. Like it's messy. Even systemically, how do you eventually qualify to be an adoptee. That's just a messy experience in general, and requires a lot of money. There's no space for that intricacy. A woman has miscarried 5 times, and there's nobody on screen or behind the screen cares about her mental or physical well-being. A woman is pressured by her mother-in-law to into producing a child as if she's some sort of factory, and rather than question that pressure, the film just goes along with it and just like, oh, here is this. I hated that so much. Like, and it makes me a little disappointed that this is out of personal experience. I think when I think it's out of personal experience, I'm like, okay, maybe this one just wants to advise women. But I'm certain that the journey as well wasn't as straightforward as the film is presenting it. I'm certain that there are a lot more intricacies involved than just, oh, I'm going to adopt today and I'm waiting and I'm going to adopt in like the same breath. I don't know how to explain it. It's just something about it that rubbed me off the wrong way. Just the point of it in general. I didn't like that. I thought that they could have been, especially since this was a personal experience, they could have been space for more, just going into just how complicated things can be. But everything just was just rushed over just so we could arrive at this really beautiful end where everybody is happy and everybody has what they need, and those who don't have what they need are just like perfectly content with waiting. Anyway, those are some of the things I didn't like about it. Again, I recognize that I'm not the target audience, but meh.
Okay. Well, at Film Club, you target audience. Elizabeth, please tell us some things that.
Okay, so when I started watching this, first I did not know what to expect going into the wait. The only thing I knew is that people said it was faith based. Yeah. First, it started with Inse narrating, and then she was speaking this British adjacent accent, and then she said something like around "I hope" or something like that in life. Yes, and then I cackled. Because I was like, oh my god, this is what we are going to spend the entire movie hearing. These are acquired accents. Oh god. Anyways, that's that about that. Let me start with the tiny things that I didn't like. So I think the other tiny thing that I didn't like was the the soundtrack. So the OST, like the normal score in between things, right? The piano, the okay, maybe not piano sound, but the instruments, right? And then they were playing this ominous sound that you hear when there is something, when something bad is imminent, like something is going to happen, somebody's going to die, somebody's going to fall into a ditch. It's a thriller, they're about to catch a dude. Why was that the sound playing when Bayo got home and he was talking to Tosa? And then as they were talking, the sound just kept taking me out, because you've heard this kind of ominous sound so much. Again, it's, you know what to expect. So if it's a light-hearted scene, you know what to expect. If it's comedic, you know what to expect, right? And this sound that you hear in every movie, in horror, and something bad about to happen, is playing, and I'm like, is she going to die? Is somebody going to die in the next scene? It just did not work for me, because I'm sorry, sound guy, that was not what was supposed to be there. Anyways, but it's everybody's. Again, I feel like, because movie is a combination of all departments working together, right? You are using soundtrack because you want to manipulate me into thinking, having feeling sorry for Tosa and Bayo, whatever. But rather than feel sorry for them or something emotional for them, that minute I was just like, is this sound supposed to be here? Is somebody dying soon? Okay, so that's the second one. Then another thing is this movie does not do anything to establish a lot of motivations. I know that Cynthia mentioned the abortion thing, but that was the first thing when I saw babies chase. Okay, so yeah, babies were not literally chasing his character, but she was running and then babies were crying or whatever. A baby was crying or something. It's like, oh, I heard how she was there or something like that. And I was like, did she do abortion? Because honestly, that's a callback to old Nollywood, right? Because the only time a woman running in a dream and she has fertility wahala is that she has done abortion and now all the babies are going to chase her for life. So why am I seeing this thing? And I was like, well, and again, so here it is. I heard that, and then nothing else explained anything else. Every other scene we encountered in this movie about that involved herself and her husband did nothing to explain their predicaments. You went behind my back to adopt. Okay, why are you so opposed to adoption? And then we say, God, I don't want adoption. Why are you opposed to adoption? Why are because I have faith? I was like, oh yeah, there goes that reason. But so it's a place where I'm reminded why this movie was made, right? As a Christian myself, but I get how it can be conflicting. So some 7-8 years ago, I was offered this book while I was trying to conceive, and as opposed to just opting for assisted repo. And I remembered, like, when it happened, I was like, okay, these are my options. And the person like, have you read The Wait by Yewande Zaccheaus, blah, blah, blah. It has to do with waiting, when you're waiting on the Lord, yada, yada, yada. And in that moment, I knew this was not the book I should be reading. I should actually join an active community with people with solution and, with actual support rather than whatever it's going on here. So I ditched that book then and I never read it. And unfortunately, I have to now watch it. And I'm like, yikes, so I didn't miss anything. Because this is a very, I don't want to, it's not tricky. This is a very delicate topic. And then one that explores community, right? And you have to get it right. Because this is not just something blasé, which most depiction of all the issues they are banal. Just boring, just something thrown together to manipulate your emotions and then just put it on the screen. And it's quite unfortunate because if you look at movies that had to do with community or people coming together, let's say maybe, okay, it's not a perfect example, but like, let's say the Jane Austen's book club, where, people come, friends coming together to discuss a book, and then this is done at the backdrop of their life, their actual life, which this is supposed to be. And then unfortunately, when they maybe during their community meeting, when they talk about something, we see it in their lives. So unlike this, I don't know exactly what community did here. Because even when people go for Alcohol Anonymous, and then that apart from just sitting around talking to each other, they also offer support, right? You have somebody who holds you accountable. You're giving medal for something. You're helped through their, different options given to them to help them through their addictions, right? There are options, but what I don't exactly know what this community does, because I remember a scene where Nara brought up pamphlets, or like, oh, this is about IVF and surrogacy, and then they looked petrified. They looked like somebody had just offered them hellfire. It was so, and it was just, and I was wondering, like, and she had to say, no, it's not actually a bad thing. It actually works. I'm like, what's happening? What the purpose of having a community, right? Like, isn't this what happens? Don't you give each other like options, trying out, and then being there when these things don't work? Is it just that you people just gather together and just talk, oh, woe is me, I have no baby, and then come back again, woe is me, I have no baby, let's hug, let's go out, woe is me, I have no baby. So because it just felt so when that was offered and everybody and some people looked petrified, I was like, uh-oh, is that what's supposed to be? And then maybe we now had just one person at the end, just Aisha's character, and like, oh, I'm doing that. So this community, apart from just talking to each other and listening, it was almost as if it did nothing to help or elevate. So, and then at the core of it eventually is that because like, it wasn't exactly a community that, I don't know, apart from sharing and being there emotionally, it almost did nothing. So because of that, I feel like most of not my feelings now, the story couldn't explore beyond the the surface of the entire premise. Like, look at the person they mentioned PCOS, and she cried, and they talked about weight again. They mentioned things that seem like they got it off internet. PCOS, you must have added weight, and that jiggered. And then it doesn't talk about how there are a lot of more women, that are skinny, and then PCOS, and if you add weight because you have one that is insulin resistant. It doesn't talk, again, I'm not expecting that they'll go into WebMD, right? But it's just weird that they picked the most stereotyped thing and then just talked about that, and then please shove that off the screen. And then for the woman, like Cynthia mentioned, 5 miscarriages that could have also been suffering from depression from Nara's mouth herself, and nobody offered her help. And then boom, she had that exchange with her husband. She used to chase him out not to pray. And honestly, as somebody who has TTC'd, I remember saying, F God. One time when my husband mentioned that, we had an IVF that failed, and I remember saying that. I could relate with that, right? And then in all of this, it went on being a victim blaming exercise. There was nothing to help her, no one to help her, and then you're telling her that she stumbled on. After that, of course, when my husband mentioned that, I said I had no recollection of saying that. It was like, you didn't, and I didn't. And then again, it shows that sometimes in our anger, some things are not exactly what we want to hear. So I didn't want to watch. If I'd known that this was about Zach, I probably wouldn't have watched it. I just, I had already committed and started watching. But it wasn't as triggering for me as it was ignorant. Let me use the word ignorant in dealing with women like this. And now there was nobody to help her, nothing, no support system, nothing. Even her husband, it was just, oh, I'm the one attending, where, even if it was a situation where she eventually went with him, there was a scene where rather than stumbling on somebody preaching and then voila, she's healed. If he could have been going with him getting her to see an actual psychologist, helping her to talk through her problems. As somebody like me, I didn't talk through my problem. I remember one time when one didn't work, and I told everyone, I'm fine. Yeah, oh my God, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm tough. I'm built like that. And then when I had another episode, and it was during my checkup that I broke down. And again, I wasn't even aware. I broke down so bad. It was PTSD. And I remembered, they wanted to do an investigation, and I just broke down. I was crying. And it was because there was a lot of hurt and pain that I'd carried for years, for trying this thing out this many times. And then I did not even remember, like, it was after I did not even hear anybody again. They were talking to me, the doctor was talking to me, and I remember that after the investigation, she referred me straight to a therapist immediately. That was the next thing. Before we went on with any other thing I was referred, I had to see somebody. I had so that I don't ramble. My point is that we don't want a situation. What this movie did is, because it was just banal, was just banal. So nothing got treated as it should with care. So there was no care in everything. It was just highlighting people's stories as though these stories, getting stories from what we've heard, and then just putting it together and putting it on our screen, and then it ended up being boring, and I don't know what it's sick to do. It didn't do whatever it wanted to do with me, though, and nothing was handled carefully or properly. So that's what I had to say about this stuff. I didn't like it.
All right, thanks a lot, Elizabeth. Mrs. C, do you want to go on and say the things you didn't like?
Okay. Yeah, so like Elizabeth mentioned, in the waiting room, I didn't know what they were doing there either. Because, and I think part of it is probably my expectations, right, of what a film about waiting would be like, and what, would be touched on with a film about waiting. It looked like it was supposed to be a support group, right? And like Elizabeth said, like they're seeing the IVF flyers for the first time. But that IVF scene was to advertise it was an NGO advert, because I heard them call the name and I went to look it up, and they do fund or part fund IVFs for applicants. So that was PSA advertising. But it's just because to me, I thought it would be the idea of, your life isn't on hold during the wait, right? And I thought it would be a thing of, things you do that make life worthwhile, right? While this thing you haven't, gotten, or this thing you're waiting for is pending or whatever. But I didn't really see much of that. And like, even if it was going to be an AA meeting type of thing, right? It's like, this week in the life of, but these women have been there a while, and we're hearing their origin stories for some of them at these meetings. And I imagine we probably heard that like 7 months ago, right? Like the thing about the other ones, mother-in-law, sister-in-law visiting, and that seems more recent, more relevant. Besides that, I get the message thing and the hope thing and all of that stuff, but to me it seemed a bit like dangerous hope as well, with the way everything got wrapped up in a pretty little bow, because not everyone is going to have that child, and it's not always going to work out. And I don't know who mentioned how they breezed past the breezed through the adoption. Like, adoption is a long, grueling process, and not everybody is even going to get through that process. And it just seemed, to me personally, even though I don't feel like I'm the target audience, it feels like dangerous hope. And I think, I don't know, it would have been nice for someone to find value in life, or, to redirect that seeking for a child energy, right? Just, I don't know, I'm waffling, but just for a bit more realism. I know film is not the place for realism, but because of the kind of film it is, and it being a message film, and all of that stuff, it just, I think, would have helped. Yes, I felt like Tosan was victim blamed. It did not sit well. This person is quite visibly depressed, probably has PTSD, has had 5 abortions, and I'm listening to this man go, "Oh, it hurt me as much as it hurt you." I'm sure emotionally, right, it hurt you to a large degree, but Jesus Christ, your body didn't go through 5 miscarriages. Get a grip. Second, I thought it was nice to include the man in the space, but I felt like he took over the space, which didn't sit well with me based on my own personal, viewpoints or whatever. I thought it would be nice for them to welcome him into the space, but then he comes in there and he's the one that's like, you know what? We're not going to focus on all this gloomy shit. Let's get pizza. I was like, why is it a man coming in here and doing the things I would like this woman to be doing? Why is he the one going, yes, let's go on a getaway and have fun? And we didn't think of this before a man showed up here to tell us that, it's not just doom and gloom. Let's go have fun despite us not having any babies. That was a bit upsetting to me, but I think it might also work because if it's a Christian film, then, a man coming in to lead the women makes all of the sense, right? I thought this guy's, the dance architect guy, while I thought it was nice to have multiple different types of waiting, he seemed like his story seemed like such a throwaway story. It seemed like such a throwaway, like I kept forgetting he was there and they just show up with STG. I'm like, oh yeah, shit, this guy is still in this film. And this one's just a nitpick. But Insa was divorced. And they flashed back to a year when she met the guy. And I don't know if any lawyers are here to correct me, but I don't think in Nigeria you can get a divorce under 2 years.
Nitpicking.
I said it's a nitpick now.
Just echoed it.
It's a nitpick, but I don't think you can get a divorce under 2 years in Nigeria. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. Anyway, all in all, I already mentioned my thing with the my issue with the adoption and how that was handled and how that went through. I found that somehow and yeah, I don't know, like, yeah, they did just pick this issue, throw it in there. We never got to know what like Ines' character's issue was. Like really what was the thing, we didn't know, and if they were going to PSA it, because it looks like they were trying to go both the medical and the religious aspect to it. But there was just not really anything. And now our person that has had 5 miscarriages that goes on to have twins, and we just get no route to that. And I don't know how that is helpful for someone going through the wait. But yeah, that's about it for me.
Okay.
Oh yeah, also I found it quite dull, sorry.
I think you mentioned. All right. Okay. I think Mel, your hands are up. Why? Did you want to do the second round or just something quick?
I'm sorry to disappoint you. You sound so sad.
I am sad.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but never mind. I guess everybody else has already said. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just make it quick so that not to make you sad. Sorry, never mind. I don't have to speak anymore.
Okay. All right. And Mel, does your hand still need to be up? All right. Okay. All right. So the things I didn't particularly like, some people have mentioned a lot. Actually, a lot have been mentioned. I might just echo. Yeah, somebody mentioned the sounds being muffled a lot. It is what it is. I guess it's Nollywood. We can't expect good sound. Yes. Elizabeth mentioned the soundtrack in a particular place. I felt the sound was the score. I found the score was generally very confusing. I kept on moving from scene to scene. I was like, why is this the score for this scene? And then I stopped asking questions, and I learned to love the atomic bomb. I think Mrs. C mentioned the representation of. I like to see as one of the few dudes in film club. It's good to see male representation. We went in there and we fixed it. Yes. Okay. No. But on a serious note, so like I almost appreciate that they wanted to tell, hey, guys can get affected by some of these things too. It didn't have to be at the detriment of somebody else. It could have just been, like the person. I don't know. Like there's a way we could have done it where it wasn't. Oh, the woman was, put it all on his head. And it's not that you can't. I guess you can't do that. It's just I don't particularly find that story that representative. So I don't know why we need to tell that particular one. Yes, men go through it, but like I think the more likely thing where we're going through things like this is a lot of times, yeah, we're supporting, and in just not being asked about how we're doing, or in not really looking after ourselves, we tend to make errors or take our emotions out in some other terrible way. Like, because a lot of times people think men aren't emotional or are not as emotional. We're better at just bottling emotions down, which is not a good thing, I would say. And bottling it down is it's only temporary as well, because it often comes out in some other usually toxic way. So yes, if we could have dealt with some other, dealt with it better. I don't know, it just needed more finesse. But asking finesse from this film seemed like a crazy thing, because I felt all of the characters, all of the everything. No, sorry, they're not characters in this. I'm sorry, they're just problems. You have all these little problems, and we essentially, the film is about how the film wants to show you how the problems will get fixed. Nobody felt like a character. If you want to tell if you want to narrate this film for somebody, you would just go, oh yeah, so Yemi is the guy who is having to sit through his wife's 5 miscarriages and PTSD, and he's not doing well. His wife has had 5 miscarriages and she's not doing well. Like that is him. That's her. Like you can narrate all these people in like all these people are like one line of all these people are just essentially one line of one description, one sentence description, and that's all they do. There's no edge or roundness to any of them. Jamie, like nothing, even the circle itself is just, oh, this is a circle that helps people out. How? Don't care. It helps people. Didn't you see they're smiling? They're smiling. Why are they smiling? Didn't you see they're smiling? They're smiling through through the company. It's just very shallow at dealing with anything. So that's why I was like, one of the things I said was good was that the directing elevated all over the script. But like sometimes I'm looking at the directing, I was like, why is this bit of camera movement in this story? It seems like this this feels like this should have been a romance. But I mean, like, I guess I can't hate on it, but there's such a disconnect between what I'm seeing, how what I'm seeing is being shot, and like some of the dialogues that come out their mouth. It's just very 2D. There's nothing, I didn't find anything interesting about anybody's situation. It's just like people are just these problems. Oh, you did this thing, you have this problem. Oh, you don't have a man, or you're waiting on this, or you're waiting on that. That's your thing. All right. So wait till the movie tells you when to solve it and how it's going to be solved. That's just what it is. So yeah, and I guess that was my biggest thing. So like when people say it's boring, it's for, I mean, like I don't mean to speak for them, but like when I felt it dragging, that's what it was. It was just like, it's very dull 2D characters that don't seem to really offer anything. And I include I can't remember what the circle is called. The circle is included in there. Nothing interesting even happens with the circle. There's no real tension. And God help us with Don, I can't remember his name, Don something. God help him with his tattoo on his back. I don't know why he's tattooed his name on his back. I don't know if that's supposed to be a tattoo. I'm not sure what that tattoo is doing there. Mrs. C. Mrs. C.
No. Move on.
Okay. Can I host Jesus? Mrs. C does not want me to open Anyash about what she said about why his name is on his back. If your mind is gross enough, you probably know, to be fair. All right. So let's do the summaries, and then we can leave this. What do we think about in general? Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you there? Anika, all right. Okay.
I was trying to unlock my phone. Okay, so overall, I don't know what to say about this film, guys. I'm not sure I would recommend it to anyone, considering the subject matter. I don't think it does anything to elevate or alleviate the issues. So I think that's it for me. It's good production to an extent. Nice set design, nice locations, and then everything looks nice. Camera looks, directing choices, screen choices, whatever. But that's as far as my praise goes for this. But everything else, I don't think it does what it should be supposed to be doing anyway. So that's it for me. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Elizabeth. Mel? Is Mel there?
Hello,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't have a summary, honestly. I wish he was honest about who he was targeting and the point he was making, because I think it's clear, the point is clear to its target audience. I just wish it was honest about who he was targeting rather than trying to masquerade and camouflage. I think that's my biggest. There's space for religious films. There's space for films with an agenda, of course. I think just be honest about the stories you're telling, and just stick to it rather than try to be like, oh, we're not really, look, we're open for all, everyone is welcome. Just do what you want to do and get out of the way. So I wish it was honest about its target audience and stuck to that rather than try to appeal to a wider audience. That's it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mel. Cynthia, do you want to give us your summary?
Oh yes, like I said before, the movie was very boring and it's quite forgettable. The highlight of the movie was mainly the camera. So they focused more on their camera movement, their transition, and whatever, and they forgot the story or neglected the story. And yeah, I didn't like how most of the women story transformed. One was victim blamed. One, I still don't understand her choice for adoption. Yeah, I mean, only Aisha. only Aisha felt like, okay, my choice is not forced. I have come to the decision with my husband. In all, I won't recommend it because it's boring and I slept off. Or I might recommend it with the caveat that it's boring, you might sleep off or whatever. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Cynthia. Ayinka, do you want to give us a summary?
Yes. I got something from this movie. But normally I'm going to change the way I make a recommendation. I got something from this movie because I thought it was different than most faith movies that seem to be treading towards like Christian nationalism. But this movie is indeed targeted to women who are waiting for fertility issues mostly. It's mostly about waiting for fertility issues. I ignored that and I took the faith angle of like something. But I'm not necessarily the target audience also. Um but to recommend this movie to somebody, if I know somebody who is like maybe religious or who is not even religious, because faith, it doesn't have to do with religion. Faith has to do with just having faith in it's a natural human thing. And they're dealing, and especially they're women, especially if they're a Nigerian woman too, and they're dealing with fertility issues. I would not recommend this movie to them because I watching the movie, I also knew that this movie was very, very surface level. It was platitudes and it was basically the same simple thing that everybody normally just tell people, oh, and it's not really dealing with the questioning. And if it's not even really dealing deeply with even the Christian idea of faith and weight, or like actual, truly deeply those things, it doesn't deal with those things. It doesn't deal, as everybody has mentioned, even fertility advice like IVF. I think it has a 10% rate of success, and it's very, very difficult and it's very expensive, even in like developed worlds. Here in America, like it's not covered under the insurance. That's money. That's a lot of money. Or like fertility, something is a lot of issues and a lot of money and a lot of just it's also a lot of like new science, and a lot of new science, people tend to think, oh, because they say science is it's going to work. It's really you're on the radio edge of things. Sometimes they are just crazy people doing crazy stupid things that don't have no basis in science, but it sounds scientific to people who are not like scientifically illiterate. um and that's a lot of people. A lot of people are scientifically illiterate. Even people who study science are sometimes very much scientifically illiterate. Just because you study this issue of science doesn't mean you know other science, other things. Um, I would not, in that case, recommend this movie. I got something from this movie. I would not recommend this movie because I know it thinks it's doing something good, but it's not completely doing something good. It's not bad, but it's not completely doing something good. That's why I might not recommend this movie in that place. But if it's a regular something somebody wants to watch, I'm like, hey, you don't have any issues with facility something. You just want to play something on the background while you do stuff. I will recommend it to that person. That's it.
All right. Thanks, Anika. Fi, please tell us your summary.
Okay, let me start my summary by saying that I actually really miss Film Club. I didn't know that it was a 2-week break that we would have. The last Sunday when I realized that I was already like having withdrawals, and today has made me realize how come I did miss it. So for me, I would say this movie, I had many things that I liked about it. So I'm going to say that I recommend it based on what I liked about it. I would say that keep an eye out for the dislikes because it's very like there are very good points that were made. So I would say people should recommend it to see how they feel about it and form their own opinions about it. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that. Ada, please tell us your general summary about The Wait.
I keep forgetting you're talking about me. Yeah, so my overall summary is it's not a necessarily bad movie. It has some bad things, but I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. And if someone wanted to watch it, I'll say go ahead. But I wouldn't be the one recommending it to them. I think they shied away a bit from making it a fully faith-based. They wanted to, I guess, catch all audiences. But I think because the way you wrapped it up, as people say, it's kind of like with a pretty neat bow. But I think if it was more like they leaned a little bit more on the religious side, then I guess it would make sense for people to have, happy ending. If you have faith, you're going to get what you want. I guess if it was like religious, I guess it makes sense for that to be the message. But I feel like they didn't lean that heavy on religion. It was just kind of a movie with some people that occasionally read scriptures or whatever. So it kind of feel like it didn't really wrap up well. And yeah, overall, as I said, I'm a witch, but yeah, it was kind of it didn't tug at my heartstrings, and it wasn't really that entertaining, or not entertaining. It shouldn't be entertaining, but it wasn't. It was kind of boring. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but I wouldn't stop people from watching it if they wanted to watch it. I'll say go ahead. Yeah, that's my summary.
All right, thank you. Our other witch.
Yeah, I feel like his audience will find it. I don't feel comfortable recommending, especially to like I think it's especially to people who are dealing with fertility issues and all of that stuff. I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending it because I don't feel like maybe I don't know. Maybe it's a case by case basis, but I don't think the recommendation will come from me. I think it's fine for his audience and anyone who enjoys it.
Thank you. An outstanding stamp, an outstanding summary. Sometimes you just anyway. You can't have a far from home time every time. All right. So I think for me, this film is like one of my least favorite types of films. It's not because it's the worst made. It's not so bad. I do think it's bad, but like not in an exceptional way. And that's the worst kind of thing, because like the stories are fine. The direction is actually kind of good for what is, but the script is so bland and so 2D that it just there's nothing there. There's nothing even so bold as to be bad. It doesn't really shoot for much. If you start talking about really sensitive subjects, it's easy to, at least get, it's like if we decide to start talking about, if you do a film about that is, that deals with the topic of like any heavy or emotional subjects, whether it be like something like sexual assault, or you're going to get people who are like, oh yeah, like I'm here for the message, or I'm here for these characters to do, or just because hey, you're a monster. But like for me, who like after you watch a lot of film, I guess, or in my case, after I've seen a lot of films, like having to deal with this heavy subject matters is just another step. It doesn't make any difference, particularly for me, especially if it isn't that bold a choice from a creative, from a narrative point. So yeah, I just found a lot of the scripts just bland and uninteresting, take me anywhere. So but I can see an audience member who is just really looking out for that message about the way, and they'll hear it, and it's something that I would kind of endorse. Like, hey, instead of just waiting for a thing, you should go do something, channel your energy somewhere else. Which kind of feels like where it was going, but it didn't commit to how it executed it. I think is what a lot of people have been struggling to say. But yeah, that's my general gist of that's how I feel. Summary of this. It's like my least favorite type of film to watch. Just kind of bland and unspecial and not even bold. Didn't even try to put Brother Shaggy to liven things up. Anyway, next week we'll be talking about Shantytown. Shantytown. I thought this was supposed to be a series. A film. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be a film, but now it's a limited series. So I'm getting King of Boys Volume 2 vibes from this, but that has almost everybody in it. That does drop next Friday, so look out for that. And we shall be discussing it on Sunday. So, but thanks everybody for coming back. Some people are a little rusty. I include myself in that. I'm the rustiest person here. Some people are very sharp. Jesus. Some people haven't lost a step. But we come again next week with Shantytown. Yeah, but thanks for everybody who's listened. Thanks for the people who've spoken. And we'll see you next Sunday.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Thanks for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed listening and would like to join live, just follow us on Twitter at Iroko Critic and join us every Sunday, 6 p.m. West African time on our spaces.